Are we good? All right, we're on. We're live. We're live. What's going on, man?
Yo,
are you even in
I
this?
am in this bitch, man.
Yo, that was
What's
super
going
loud.
on, bro?
All right.
You know, we in this thing, bro. I'm shinier than a motherfucker. It is moist today.
That's a word that was voted the #1 least enjoyed word, according to something. I think BuzzFeed.
Least
said that.
enjoyed word, moist?
Yeah, least enjoyed. Yeah, moist. Anyways, this is Sean. Welcome to Playback Appeal.
What's up, Aaron? Ooh.
And we are the Rap Geeks.
Rap Geeks, baby.
So today we decided to talk about an album that was released 30 years ago today by New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey group, Poor Righteous Teachers.
What's the album called?
Album's called Holy Intellect.
Holy Intellect.
Right.
Yeah, man. Interesting. I never heard of this group before you told me about them, and you know, I mean, that was one reason why I was all for checking it out.
Yeah, I think the reason I wanted to talk about them is because, well, first of all, that's kind of our thing. We like to go back and look at old music as opposed to new music. We like to look at albums when they're released in their 10-year, 20-year, 30-year anniversary, and just to commemorate them, you know what I mean? Commemorate a piece of history, a piece of art that maybe doesn't get as much appreciation now. And, you know, if that means that no one in our age group is going to watch our stuff, that's okay with me, man, because I'm pretty sure by now 40, 50-year-olds know how to use YouTube too. So shout out to all the 40 and 50-year-olds. And if you're older than 40 or 50, that's fine. If you're younger, that's fine too.
Share this on Facebook too, with y'all old heads, because I know most of y'all on Facebook still.
Facebook, MySpace, AIM, WeChat,
all of that.
Weibo, Viber, Telegram, any of that. But this is going to be a pretty short one. Yeah, man. You have some initial thoughts on Holy Intellect by Poor Righteous Teachers?
Yes, indeed. You know, this freaking album, bro, is pretty much every element of hip hop in a whole album. You know, I'm talking the rapping, the DJing. I feel like I wanted to break dance through some of these. You know what I mean?
Right.
Graffiti, all of that, man.
Right.
Doing one of these poses. Yeah, man.
For sure. And the album's kind of the really interesting thing about Poor Righteous Teachers is I think they were rated on the Source's most underrated rap groups, or one of the rappers was rated as one of the most underrated rappers of all time. And they've only had one radio single throughout their whole entire career, which is a good song, which is the only song I knew from them before we dived into the album, which is Rock This Funky Joint.
Ooh, yeah.
So when you heard that for the first time, which comes pretty early in the album, I believe it's track 2, did it move you at all?
Instantly body started moving, shoulders, you know what I mean, everything. For real, was really bopping to it. I don't know, man, it's that bounce, you know. But specifically,
agreed,
something
man.
about it for me, it really, what did I say, man? It sounded like I could hear it on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It has that kind of style to it. I mean, naturally, the time frame of that game, but there was something to that. It instantly, you know, reminded me of I thought of DJ Quick. I mean, what's his name? Wise Intellect's voice has that same kind of, you know, they sound similar in the way, in certain songs DJ Quick raps on. But I was messing with that song heavy.
Yeah, and I believe one of the group members, Father Shahid, actually passed away. I want to say a couple of years ago.
God bless the dead.
2014, died of a motorcycle accident. So, and I think it was around this time too, like in May. So, wanna give a shout out to Father Shahid and all the lives that he influenced.
Yeah.
So, diving into this album, probably I had two thoughts. one of my thoughts was, why are we reviewing an album this old? Because it's an old album, and listening to it, and I texted you while I was listening to this, I was saying, man, listening to this and having to go through like an hour and a half of old school 1990s hip hop makes you appreciate the Gunnas of the world a little bit more.
Tell me about that.
Just to see how far we've gone in terms of hip hop music and what it's become now, where it's just like, you know, think about people in 1990, if they were to listen to the new Gunna album.
Yeah.
It would be inaudible, because we've gone so far in terms of what hip hop's been from that time. But you know what? Poor Righteous Teachers, they were one of the most early prolific hip hop groups in New York at the time. And when I think about why that didn't necessarily translate to success, that's because I looked back and I was like, okay, New York, 1990. What was out? It was already Run DMC was out. Let's talk about Gangstar was out. LL Cool J was out. Brand Nubian was
De La
out.
Soul.
Tribe. And De La Soul, Tribe. And then on the West Coast, Ice Cube,
Quick,
Too Short, Above the Law, NWA was already out. So and one that we just reviewed, Public Enemy. That was also in that same year. So 1990 was such an interesting year for hip hop, because we were coming out of the shadows of the Slick Rick and the Run DMCs, and we were going towards what the hell is going to happen right now. And unfortunately for Poor Righteous Teachers, I don't feel like their album was innovating any more than what was already out at the time. But I'll give them this. Listening to that album, the delivery and the flow is so fast-paced. And maybe that's a New York thing, because I also think about another hip-hop group from New York called Foo Schnickens. You might not have heard of them. But that flow is really awesome, because I'm thinking they were probably doing these flows live. But it's also really difficult to listen to that fast pace of a flow for a whole hour and a half.
Oh, dude. There's so many words in every bar, and just like you, I had to go through the Genius, and I usually don't go through the lyrics like as in depth with this one, for two reasons. One, to really see if to try to understand what they were trying to say, because I know part of that particular flow, you have to really, oh my goodness gracious.
It's blazing fast,
super
bro.
fast, and it's like, how can you be as conscious as they are at that speed, really? You know what I mean? That's what I think the real challenge was. And I mean, a lot of stuff is deep in there. Honestly, a lot of it went over my head. It's a lot of Islamic references, man.
A lot of, and just to give it, let's talk about that a little bit. This group was part of the Nation of Islam, from what I understand. The five, man, I don't want to butcher this.
Seven in a crescent.
Is it the Five Percenters?
Probably.
Is it the Five Percenters?
Sure, dude.
I believe it's the Five Percenters.
Producer,
but this is super Afrocentric shit, man.
That was one of the.
This is super pro-black, but not only pro-black, pro-Islam black.
What were
a
couple themes that you caught throughout the album? Mine were Afrocentricity, consciousness and intelligence. The
black voice. Right. But you know what? What's really interesting is, despite the fact that they were an Islamic group, it seemed like they had no problem talking about women as well. Like, if we talk about the track Shakiyla, I believe that's the track. That's how they want to pronounce the name. First of all, I don't know if you picked this up. Did you pick up the sample?
Yeah, the Roger Troutman, the Zapp and Roger.
The Zapp's Be Alright, that couple years later was also sampled on Tupac's highly prolific Keep Your Head Up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the only problem that I have with this track is the singing is quite lackluster. But
yeah, and I think that might have been, they might have been pushing some boundaries of that time trying to sing like that. I mean, even on, especially for them, because everybody had that same kind of style in the East Coast, right? As far as production and, however, they, PRT, they went the more rapping route, whereas a group like De La Soul, they kind of went melodic with it. Sometimes they had some singing, and this was probably the only singing on this album was on that song that you just mentioned.
Right. And a lot of these songs, we talk about this a lot whenever we listen to old school hip hop. Just the length of time. We always say this, but the length of time on hip hop. Right now, it's like you make a song past 2 minutes. That might not even. There needs to be a radio edit on a song that's past 2 minutes.
Songs in this.
These songs are like bordering 5 minutes.
And
long,
here's the thing about it that really grinds my gears. Is the part of the song that's supposed to be where the chorus is, it's a scratch break. It's not even really a chorus, you know what I mean? Right. It's a scratch break, and then they get back into the verse, and it's just more words for that ass.
Right. And one thing I think about whenever I listen to this, like I'll thinking about the next song, Time to Say Peace, and I really see how much influence 80s hip hop played into that like 1990 era, and I was just like hearing the Slick Rick influence, and it made me think like, damn, like Slick Rick really had such a big influence, just the way he rapped, just the storytelling capacity. Although like no one can match Slick Rick in terms of the storytelling capacity, but the horn samples, that's another one as well. It's crazy. And you know what? Maybe that's just hip hop in general, but like things that are made 2 years ago really influence like the present, and it's interesting how fast hip hop changes throughout each individual year or even 6 months, as opposed to other music genres like I want to say rock.
So you're saying around the 90s they were still rocking on grooves that they were rocking with in 88, 87.
Well, I want to say it played a huge influence.
Whereas now, like, we're not rapping on stuff that was big in 2017, 2016. Like,
no, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying hip hop in totality has always changed so rapidly year by year that it's hard to like. I mean, we once had this conversation about how if you make a hit single, you got maybe 2 years of prominence before you need to make another chart-topping Billboard single. And hip-hop especially, like, I mean, Tekashi 6ix9ine's back, but when he was gone for 1 year, nobody was talking about him anymore when he was in jail, and that's crazy that's just the case. Like, there's just always a new influx of rappers every single year, that it takes your time and attention away from something that could have been dope two years ago.
It depends on the artist, man. We're still talking about Bobby Shmurda in high regard.
Well, you and me talk about Bobby Shmurda. I don't know if other people talk about Bobby Shmurda like that.
Right. You're right. I don't have conversations.
People still talk about Fetty Wap. I say that's the one that, like, if someone needs to make a comeback, it's gonna be Fetty Wap. But we're getting too deep. We gotta put our brains back in 1990, bro.
Right. But let's move forward into the album, to the track called Holy Intellect. What were your thoughts on that one?
Dude, my thoughts were just blazing fast speed and delivery, and and I remember the funny thing is I was going on Genius to check the lyrics, and I think for some of these tracks, this stuff is so underground that like some of these tracks didn't even have lyrics, so you had to listen, you had to really listen, and like it's just hard. It's just hard to pick up on that.
This particular song, I mean, after reading the lyrics, and without it sounding offensive, I mean, I just want to say it didn't seem like there was anything that deep about the stuff they were talking about. It was just really fast, and they hit a flow, almost similar to what Busta Rhymes did on Look At Me Now. You know what I mean? There's nothing really deep about it, but, I do admire how they were able to navigate those pockets that they hit, throwing in as much words and the rhyme scheme they chose. And I mean, as far as lyricism goes, this is skillful lyricism all over this album.
They do get deep. They do get deep, and they get deep in like two songs that come to mind. One is the medley, where they went deeper into their affiliation with the Nation of Islam, and then the other one was Speaking Upon a Black Man, where when they got even deeper into the Afrocentricity, and they even got into why black people shouldn't go to church, because church was something that was instilled through slavery, and that what is it? Islam is the religion that actually comes from the motherland of closer to Africa, and so that was interesting, and it's interesting because I don't typically hear about Muslim rappers like that.
That's true. Actually, closer to the end of the album, I realized, this is a religious album.
I don't know. No, I would disagree, man. I wouldn't say it's a religious album by any means.
So here's the thing. It depends how you flip it. Depends how you take it. Because a big theme in this particular album is this idea of the Holy Intellect, right? And
and let's expand upon that.
So what do you think that they're trying to say in that song specifically, or just in general?
So let's talk about the name Poor Righteous Teachers, like where that comes from. From what I understand, there's this quote. I don't know if it's from Minister Farrakhan, or I don't know if it's from Elijah Muhammad, one of these cats, right? And it says something along the lines of how 4%, and you know what? I don't know if it's 4 or 5%, like 5% of humans are poor righteous teachers that need to enlighten the 85% of people that are lost. And I think that's a Muslim thing. And so Holy Intellect, the word holy has a religious connotation to it, but intellect, sure, if you really want to think about it, Holy Intellect could just be some type of wisdom dropping that they're doing on the listener, right?
I took something similar to that because in that particular song, the Holy Intellect, they pretty much talk about putting into the world things that's in their mind. You know what I mean? Sharing this power of the mind with others. That's the Holy Intellect. This is the Poor Righteous Teachers, right? Just sharing this wisdom with others, and they so happen to do it over rap music. You know what I mean? And that's all they're promoting in this particular song. They say in the beginning of the track, there's a vocal sample that says, "For those that can't be themselves shall be destroyed." And so I think the way I took that particular song is, just give your best gift back to the universe. You know what I mean? You are the Holy Intellect. And this particular song reminds me of something that Killer Mike said on both his Netflix show and on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is pretty much like in regards to the idea of a white Jesus, and how bad that is for the black community, is that, by having that, it makes it hard for the black community to see the divinity within themselves. And so listening to this particular song really made me think of that whole idea.
Damn, that's like the deepest thing that's ever been said on the show so far.
And it came out of me.
Yeah, I know for sure, man. Yeah. I'm all with you, and I think although the message is good, right?
Right.
The album, just for me personally, besides the song "Rock This Funky Joint," just doesn't have that much playback appeal.
No.
But I think I was frustrated and then I got to the last song, the self-titled "Poor Righteous Teachers," and I was like, finally, they put their foot on the brakes a little bit, and they gave us something that's a lower BPM, something a little bit more chill. Right.
Yeah.
And
I didn't like the song, that last song, but so for me, right, the song before that, I think is something that we should talk about. I don't know. It seemed you ran through it, so I don't know if it really resonated with you, but that was another one of those songs similar to rock this funky joint
well,
that just had a groove to
Butt
it.
Naked Booty
Yeah,
Bless?
Butt Naked Booty Bless. But here's the thing. The actual song is called
Uh-huh.
Butt Naked Booty Blues. But in the song, they go Butt Naked Booty Bless. I don't know what's going on with that. I have a theory that maybe it just looked bad to have that as the title on the name of your track. If you have the word bless, maybe people think you're some religious kind of rapper. I have no clue.
I mean,
but
dude, the lyrics on that are literally like praises are due to
do you know what they mean by
Allah
Butt
and-
Naked Booty Bless?
Do you
Yeah,
know?
man. And I don't remember if I read it on a Genius or if they literally said it at some point throughout the song, because they repeat that phrase multiple times. It's a thing that they created themselves. That all pretty much means is how raw their raps are. You know, butt naked, just being completely naked. There's no filter in their raps, and they're just raw with it. And that's pretty much the whole point. It's not that deep. But it is an ideology that they push in this particular album, is just be yourself, you know what I mean? Give your gift, and just be raw, man. Fuck all the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean their music is pretty raw,
Yeah.
and that's maybe something that gravitates me towards other releases that came out in 1990, like X-Clan's album or America KKK's Most Wanted by Ice Cube, or A Tribe Called Quest debut album. It's just, I think towards this year is when rappers started to get really experimental, and just kind of separate themselves from what was going on in the 80s, which was following a lot of that rock, funk, soul type samples. Not to say that they don't continue to use those kind of samples, but to just take their own spin with it. And so for me personally, I appreciate Poor Righteous Teachers.
Yep.
If anyone even still is watching this video, that means you're probably a fan. So shout out to you for being different. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. What are yours?
Well, this album, you mentioned how you used to listen to this a lot in high school. And I want to say, you know, in high school, just like myself and a lot of my friends, that was when we discovered groups like Tribe Called Quest. For me, it was Tribe. I would recommend this album to a young cat that's getting into hip hop, just so they could see a different flavor to it, in addition to the different sides of the normal groups that we hear of, like Tribe and De La Soul. Those are the ones that we all know about. But then you got some cats like this, and then YZ, you know what I mean? That's also on the label. I forgot what it's called. It starts with a P, whatever, right? And so just this,
I think it's Profile.
yeah, right. So just YZ and PRT, like that style of hip hop, it's pretty underground. You know what I mean? Like, which is interesting because I went on Discogs to see what the value is of a vinyl of this, and it wasn't that high. It was like $20 or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one that if you are gonna consume it on vinyl, consume it on cassette. Maybe don't listen to it on Spotify. Maybe listen to it the way it was made to be listened to.
Right.
But yeah, it is interesting seeing the beginnings of conscious hip hop in 1990 and seeing, you know, where it is today, and that the themes have been, for the most part, pretty stable, I would say.
Yeah, for me, I guess a big difference between listening to this whole album versus listening to, and I compare them to Tribe and De La Soul, just because both the time frame and even just the way that the production sounds. All of those albums make me feel, all of those albums
They're also like a three-person duo.
yeah.
Three-person
They put me back to that time
group,
frame,
so-
you know? And so,
Right.
however, the variability in the music for De La Soul and Tribe, you know, I think is telling of their artistry versus, you know, PRT. Every song to me kind of was the same.
Yeah, blended
Yeah.
in together, kind of. And no one, it's almost as if, I think we can both agree that if I want to hear New York, early 1990s, Tribe's the best. And if you put everything to the standard of A Tribe Called Quest, then everything else just doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's just the reality of it. But
Right. If I was a crate digger, you know what I mean, of
Right.
that time, I'd be going crazy for this album. Like, honestly, especially for some of these tracks, I would go crazy for. You know, especially like the ones that we were just talking about, the Rock That Funky Joint. I really like that song.
I like that song too, man.
Yeah. What are your last thoughts on it?
That's pretty much it for me. And so, but hey, we want to hear the audience's thoughts on this. So if you guys are rocking with Poor Righteous Teachers in 2020, 30 years after this album has been released and you're on our video, let us know why.
Check the link out below, man.
You know, let us know in the comments. You know, what we do with these videos is if you want to hear this album, we're going to have it all down in the description. You can click on every single song and music videos and more. But tell us what you like about the album, if you dislike the album, and if you're interested in hearing more about these 10-year, 20-year, 30-year anniversaries for classic hip-hop albums or failures, then give us a subscribe, man. Give us a subscribe. We post videos weekly, and also gives it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. Let us know what more you want to see. If you have any other artists, rappers, groups that you want us to look into and dive deep into, that's what we're here for.
Rap Geeks, Playback Appeal. You know what it is. Thanks for watching.
Peace out.